Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to welcome the University of Washington's Division of Design. Today they'll be presenting some student projects from their Art 484 class on health and wellness. This is an interaction design class that spanned the last 10 weeks. And this class this year is part of the Microsoft Research Design Expo, which is a program that Microsoft Research is leading to encourage outstanding design thinking worldwide. And this year we decided to partner very closely with the University of Washington. And what is nice about that is that we're actually able to bring in all of the students and let them show their projects here in Redmond. There'll be more presentations later on this summer as part of the faculty summit. And you'll see projects there from Brazil, China, Hong Kong, and other places in the world. But today I'm asking you to do a special welcome for the University of Washington here. So I'll ask Professor Axel Ressler to come up first, then introduce the class and give you a basic outline of what this class was about. Axel?
Yeah, maybe in your pocket. Good afternoon. My name is... I have to plug this in? Okay. All right. Now we can't pause. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Axel Ressler. I'm a professor for interaction design at the Division of Design, University of Washington. It's a new program. We started out in fall 2005, and our idea is to create a base at the University of Washington where design students can work with students from all across campus working in technical disciplines on human-computer interaction focus. And we are also a member of the DUB group on the University of Washington. It's a very interdisciplinary group, computer science, technical writing, information school, psychology that meets weekly on Wednesdays, 12 o'clock. So there's this DUB group event every week. And I think what's really interesting with this class is that we have a broad spectrum of students. Not only do we have students from diverse disciplines, such as the design fields, namely visual communication and also industrial design studies, but also technical communication from the informatics program at the iSchool, from electrical engineering. We have professional students and graduate students, juniors, seniors, all mixed together. What was also interesting with this class is that we had a very close connection with Georg, and who brought in several members from Microsoft Research and Microsoft Campus that had really close interactions with the students and gave us really tremendous feedback on every step in the process, which was very focused on research and studying user behavior, working on ideation, and then come up with mock-ups that we could test, prototypes, to really then phase it out in detailed prototypes for the final presentation. So today we're going to show you what the outcome was of this project. And we have 6 teams, ranging from team sizes from 2 to 6. So we were very experimental there too in the team formation and project identification. And I hope you're going to enjoy the presentation. And I want to thank Georg and Microsoft for their generous support and time and resources, and also the hard work of the students that made this event today possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Axel. So to start it off, we have a team of, you guys were 5, right? A team of 5 called Pebble in the Pond.
Howdy, we're Team Pebble in the Pond, and we're very excited to be here. We just want to thank the Microsoft Research team for giving us this opportunity to present our design. We're a multidisciplinary group consisting of visual communication design, information science, industrial design, and informatics. And I'm just going to jump right into it and give you a brief summary of our just identifying first our problem and then introducing our design as a solution. And so what we found is that people as grocery shoppers are faced with a variety of options in deciding what products to purchase. And it's really difficult to get a sense of how they differ in terms of their health attributes and environmental impacts. And so what we've designed as a solution to this this problem is what we call Fit to Shop, and that is it's a web-based tool that gives a visualization of these differences, enabling consumers to compare products, make the best choices, and then it compiles their decisions into a shopping list. And additionally, this interface records the user's shopping history and creates visualizations for that as well. So I'm just going to hand it off to Kevin, and he's going to elaborate on how we got to where we are right now.
All right, so you guys kind of wonder, where do products come from? How are they processed? What kind of energy did it take to really get it to where it was to you, and how you consumed it, and what happens after you dispose of the product? And so what we did was we looked at the kinds of situations where people make these decisions when they buy these everyday products, and what are the consequences of these everyday transactions that you experience with. And so we went out into the environment and did some observations to see how the customers and the shoppers engage in their surroundings. We looked at the grocery store in particular to see what kind of signage is there, what kind of information is already available, and what kind of situation they were in contextually. And we found that they don't have a lot of time, attention, or the free hand to really engage in any kind of technology that we want to incorporate. We want to keep it hands-free and make it easy for them to kind of use the resources around them, such as a shopping list, which we discovered was a very useful tool that they use as a way to refer and recall the items that they need to buy for their necessity, and as a way to just offload kind of that cognitive memory load. And so we thought about where do they make these decisions. And with the shopping list, they do it at home. When they think about in their kitchen, what's there, what's in their pantry, and as they're writing things down, they use that to record all their needs and to make those decisions about what's healthy for themselves, their children, and considering what might be the impact of the product that they buy. And so we also thought grocery stores were particularly important because for every household, 1/3 of their environmental impact comes from those everyday food and beverages that we consume. So we thought this was a huge opportunity to really make change, to put people in the driver's seat of making those decisions, and to really encourage that kind of activity because we just need to. And so Marilyn's going to kind of show you the interactions that happen with our design through the story of Sophie.
Meet Sophie. Sophie's a 51-year-old chemist. She's a resident of Seattle. She lives in a condo with her cat Felix and is an avid gardener. In terms of her attitudes towards health and the environment, she's a very healthy eater. She's very aware of nutritional concepts and concerned about her health. In terms of her environmental attitude, she feels good about contributing to the curbside recycling program. But she's not somebody who actively seeks out environmental information. And if she has product choices, she'll tend to choose the one that costs less rather than the one that's marked environmentally friendly. And we intentionally chose someone like Sophie as our prototypical user because when we described this project idea to potential users, those who were already more environmentally aware were very excited about it. It was an easy sell, but we wanted to be sure that our audience was a little broader than that. So we talked to people like Sophie who care about the environment but aren't necessarily actively making changes in their behavior. And when we talked to these people, two important things came up. One was that they liked the idea of this product, but if it gave them too much negative information and made them feel guilty, they would tend to avoid it. So we needed to present the information in a fairly positive way. And the other one was that they didn't want a system telling them what to do or what to buy. They wanted to be given options. So that we took those into consideration with our design. So Sophie has read about Fit to Shop, and she decides to check it out. So this is what she sees when she goes there. First, the page is dominated by this graph that has a health axis along the side and an environmental axis along the bottom. She notices the search box up there, and one of the things she's planning to buy today at the store is tomato soup. So she types in tomato soup, runs a search, and sees two things happen. First of all, there are 9 types of tomato soup available in her store, and they're ranked here by price. And then they also populate the grid. So what she's seeing here is that there's a fairly wide range of differences in health and differences in environmental impact between these products. So she's curious to find out what is this one that's way up the top, that's high on the health scale and high on the environmental scale. It turns out that Amy's Chucky Organic, and not surprisingly, it's one of the more expensive options. And then she also sees these bars appearing that help her understand how it achieved that ranking. So it's high in vitamin A, vitamin C. She's a little unsure what some of these mean, so she can hover over them and see the details. So, for example, the A is indicating that Amy's corporation was given an A grade for their corporate and for their environmental and social policies and behaviors. Okay, so she wants to learn more, say how Amy's compares with some of the cheaper options. She can click on the info button and get some more details about each of these products. And then it's even easier to compare across products. So for example, she can see that while these other two provide 10% of your vitamin C requirement for the day, Amy's provides 40%. And it also provides 20% of your vitamin A. So there is a significant difference. And then when she's decided which purchase she wants to make, she can click on one of these plus symbols, and that appears over on her shopping list. So she can continue on, explore more products, and when she's ready, she can print it out and take the list to the store with a record of the decisions she's made. Okay, so that's one aspect of Fit to Shop. This is the page that helps you make decisions about products. But there's also a history aspect. As Kevin mentioned, since she uses a membership card when she shops at her store, her actual purchases are being recorded. And they're reflected in her history page. So there are actually two panels of the history page. This is the health panel. Later on, we'll see the environment panel. And so she can see here how she's doing generally, what the trends are. And down here, she sees a food pyramid. And she can see how well her product purchases are aligning with the food pyramid recommendations. Now, Sophie's been very busy in the last month, and she's been buying a lot of convenience foods. And so she's concerned that maybe she hasn't been eating quite as healthy as usual. So she's clicked on the 30-day view, and she can see that indeed the balance of her products is a little off. And she can see where she needs to cut down and where she needs to eat more. Okay, if she goes to the Environment tab, she sees a similar display. Again, she can get a sense of how she's doing. I didn't point out before that she can also see where the average American is, so she can see how she's doing compared to the average American. And again, she has some details here. In this case, for example, this first one is telling her when she buys paper products, what percentage of those products have recycled content. And again, so this is her, and this is the average American. She can see that she's doing better than the average American. And she can also actually get details. She can see exactly what she purchased. So that's Fit to Shop, and that's Sophie. After a while, this is more time-consuming, obviously, than just scribbling down a shopping list. But she's learning each time she uses it. And just the fact that she's been exposed to this has raised her awareness. So now I'll pass it back to Kevin to summarize and finish up for us.
All right, so basically what we aimed to do was to help the consumer and the shopper become more informed and educated, because from really our user research, the target audience, if granted they have more education, they do turn into those proactive people who make more smarter decisions and who will ultimately drive companies to realize that this is something that needs to happen because the consumers are responding in this way. This can be shared with others, and this just empowers the user to make those better decisions every day. Some of the considerations that we also made, aside from the system, was a second component. Much similar to how Target has price scanners, we thought of a way to allow them to scan products in store in case there was a gap in remembering what they were researching, why this product was important, or maybe there was a new product that just came out at the KFC or the Whole Foods, and they want to learn more about it then and there because maybe something at the same price could be more beneficial for their children at home. And another important aspect that we wanted to incorporate was to, in the future, involve more social and communal activities because, again, from user research, we found that environmental and health activities were very social. These were activities that people shared and related with, not because of it makes them healthy, but because it's an experience that they can participate with other people outside of their usual social network. And so we want to somehow think about ways we can expand our system to be accommodating for that kind of activity in the real world. And so ultimately, we want to visualize, help empower people, give them choice, be sensitive about that choice, and that's it. That's Fit to Shop.
We'll do a brief Q&A. And speakers, please repeat the questions.
Okay.
The products that you show there, they're classified by various criteria. Who does the classification?
That's a good question, yeah. So the health scale, we actually use the system that's been developed by nutritionists that gives each food item, and sorry, I forgot to repeat the question. The question was, how are these measurements made? Who does the classification?
Clarify. There are like literally millions of different products out in the market. How would you establish a database that has classifications for a reasonable subset so that your system becomes useful? Because if on most of my queries I hit blanks, I'm not going to use it, right?
Right.
Do you envision something like a Wikipedia where a community contributes these judgments, or how do you arrive at them for a good number of products?
Okay. So to repeat that question, how do we get data data about environmental and health impacts for a significant?
Your microphone's fell off.
Oh, thank you. So how do we gather the data about the health and environmental impacts for a significant enough number of products that people get data when they go searching? So there are impressively comprehensive databases out there for health indexes for each item, and my understanding of the way these are derived is basically it has to do with nutritional density. So for a given product, how many nutrients per calorie or per volume each item has. So that allows you to put very different foods on a common scale. And in my experience with it, it's a very comprehensive database. So hopefully there wouldn't be too many gaps. So the environmental one, that's different. There's a lot of information out there. It took a lot of time to gather it, but it's there. But there's also obviously a very active and interested community out there. So I do envision that with an infrastructure in place, there would be contributors to it to create a database like that. Another question? Yeah.
Did you look at how many, you didn't specify whether North America was your target.
Oh.
How many homes have computers in their kitchens? The utility of that would be much greater if it's where, whether they have laptops or whether they have phones.
Yeah. So the question was, how many computers are there on average in a household in the kitchen, in the U.S. or anywhere?
The question was, did you look at how many homes in whatever your target is have computers in the kitchen?
So how many homes did we look at, or if we looked at had computers? Yeah. So did we look at it? Did we investigate how many homes had computers? And we did not look at that information.
We considered that. We thought about, usually your grocery store list is in your kitchen, and when you think of something, you go write it down. You don't want to have to go to the other room and work on this. And so we're envisioning that, we considered things like scanning your list in, that you've made in the kitchen. And I think really how this would work, it would be a combination of, first of all, if you've used this system for a long time, you'll start to know what your decisions were. You don't have to look at tomato soup every time. And if you buy tomato soup a lot, you've already decided. So we just think that will work. But that is an issue. That's an issue. We thought about it. We're hoping it's not too much of a barrier.
I'll take one last question, actually.
And you had your...
Folks will be available afterwards, so you can't ask now.
Yeah, I think you had your hand up for a while.
Great, thank you. Really impressive to see your end results of all of your work. This is great. Did you guys give any thinking to revenue models or to kind of connecting with business partners in terms of driving revenue for this thing, or ad space, or partnering with Albertsons and Safeway, blah, blah, blah.
Do you want to answer that?
So the question was, did we think about a business model essentially that could be used to generate money? And that was a discussion we've had as a group and with our professor. And we think that you could incorporate maybe a point system to encourage people to buy more organic foods because they are more expensive and it is harder to sell those. And for distributors like Whole Foods, well, not Whole Foods, but like KFC or Albertsons, where they might have some selection, and it's really hard to get rid of that and to gauge how much of their inventory should be spent on those items. And so if this system can anticipate and be linked with other stores to kind of know what the actual, or a closer margin of what the anticipated sale would be, then there would be incentive so that they can drive those kind of sales. Nothing about ads.
There also is inherently, if you're using this system and you're really interested in tracking your purchases, and so you have to go to your store with the membership card, the store that is linked to the system in order to get that information. So the store might be motivated, it has a benefit to the store to encourage you to use this system, because then you're going to want to make sure most of your purchases happen at that store.
Well, let's thank our speakers. And they've explored the interesting problem of uncertainty in patient-doctor communication.
Okay, so we are Team Uncertainty. My name is Louise. This is Luke and Aaron. And we looked at, or settled on, medical dialogue mapping as sort of the solution to our overall problem. So we started really big, and we looked at the whole healthcare system. We spoke to a bunch of different people, and some of the issues that we came up with, strengths and shortcomings, were we found that the close patient-doctor relationship and the conversations that happen between them are very key to almost every medical situation. A shortcoming in this, though, is that there is no tangible representation that exists to remember this conversation or refer to it at a later date. The conversations can be stressed or rushed, and patients are often inundated with new information, so it often becomes necessary to refer these conversations at a later date. But you might not know what you would need to remember, so uncertainty is inherent. So we decided that we would create an artifact that records and represents the doctor-patient dialogue, affords reflection and access to the relevant information. And what we came up with is called Metalog. We feel like this name really represents it well because it speaks to both the medical side of things and the dialogue side of things, as well as the mediation that this device will hopefully provide. Some specific goals are to leverage the strengths of the healthcare system as it is today, not to try to overhaul the whole system, to be subtle enough to not distract from the dialogue, but be upfront on the table so as not to be a secretive recording device. We wanted to show the dialogue mapping scheme during the recording, during the conversation, which would enable this to be more accessible to review after the fact.
So what we came up with is a tabletop recording device. This sits in the doctor's office between the doctor and the patient. and records and maps the conversation, the dialogue between the two. So what you see here is a snapshot of the interface. You see these directional microphones, which are used to distinguish one speaker from another in the conversation. And you see this round screen that's actually sloped downward in a spiral to indicate the starting point and to indicate the cyclical nature of medical diagnostics. So to look at the map in a little bit more detail, we map time to the circle. So we start at 0 degrees and move around. You can see the playhead here, this little black bar. And the forms on the outside of the dark black ring correspond to time that the doctor is talking in the conversation. And here I highlight the doctor's primary interaction, which is indicating phases of the conversation. These are phases we found to be consistent. There's a point where the doctor is gathering data and collecting symptoms. There's a point where the doctor is diagnosing and coming up with what he thinks the problem is, and a point where he's or she is suggesting treatments. So now we look at the patient portion of this device, where we are indicating times in the dialogue where the patient's talking, and the patient's primary interaction, also relatively low resolution, is leaving markers in the conversation. So this yellow button floats along with the record head, and the patient can press this to leave a breadcrumb in the conversation that they can go back to later, basically to flag something that was important. The system does generate one thing, which is tracks which correspond to reversals in conversation. So the doctor's talking, describing something, and the patient then says, okay. And that marks one track that you can use to browse afterwards. So to see this in action a little bit, time is ticking. The conversation is going back and forth. We're in the symptoms phase. The doctor is going to switch to the diagnosis phase. And the patient is going to decide to mark something in the conversation as significant. And now we can look at what this is like in the context of a particular meeting.
Now, Mr. Anderson, after we've completed our evaluation, we're going to talk about some therapeutic activities that we can do to improve your facial symmetry and as well as help with your dysphagia and risk of aspiration. It's called Vital Stim. It's a neuromuscular electrical stimulation device, and we'll do that about 3 days a week.
So what does that mean?
What that means is we'll have electrodes in 2 different placements. We're going to have a facial placement to work with getting your face back symmetrical without the droop and improve the weakness, and then here around the hyoid bone and the cricopharyngeal and improve your swallowing there.
Does it hurt to have electrodes in your face?
No, it doesn't hurt. The electrodes are just taped here on your face and on your throat, and they innervate the nerves and the muscles and stimulate the blood flow, which there improves your muscular function.
So how long does it have to be? How long do I have to go through this therapy?
Well, we like to do about 45 to 60-minute treatment sessions, about 3 days a week since you're outpatient. And like I said, it doesn't hurt. You'll feel a little bit of a tingle because it is an electrical stimulation. But you should see results fairly quickly.
Okay, so we spoke to a bunch of different people, including medical professionals and potential users as far as the patient end goes. And so we thought we'd give you a little idea of our feedback. From an occupational therapist, she thought it was a good idea because in her work, she sees a lot of filtering of information from doctor's notes through nurses or herself back down to the patient because the doctor doesn't have much time to actually explain things to the patient. From a speech pathologist, she thought it was an interesting idea. It also could be useful for saving time rather than having to write things down. And it could be helpful for people who are having difficulty remembering things. From a potential patient who said it's a more effective way of note-taking without losing the big picture of the conversation.
So how we got there, this is the next step here. it was a long track that led with this idea of uncertainty and brainstorming how we can bring some clarity to this whole idea of medical healthcare system. And we started off by meeting with a chiropractor and actually trying to get some data, trying to record a 45-minute conversation of the treatment process in the chiropractic scenario, and then taking all of that and transcribing that. And pretty much we learned from that is that transcribing takes a long time. It took us like 5 hours to record or transcribe 40 minutes of conversation. That people are going to highlight whatever they find important out of that mess, and that the audio is really a lot more key than just having the text and context. So we then took all of that information, plugged it into a couple different ideas that we were looking at, like this Many Eyes here, which is an online web browser. We plugged all the transcription into that to look for repetition in words to see if there's any patterns in that, and it didn't seem to bring too much clarity. So the one thing we did get was that there was this back and forth dialogue going between the doctor and the patient, and we could use some structure with that. So we went back through, mapped out more of the process of the doctors and the patient going through this process with the doctor, and thought we could bring some structure into the conversation there. We came up with the cycle of the data collection, the hypothesis essentially, and then the implementation out into the real world, and then possibly refinement as well if you don't achieve success in the first cycle. Through there we did some mapping of sentence structure and actual audio in that with this cycle, and did our scenario building here as you saw earlier, and started this rough prototype here, and then ended with Metalog.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was curious why you chose the ring as an interface for this, because as it's recording at a fixed rate in time, it would imply that there's only a certain amount of time you can actually record.
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the biggest things we started looking at first. Initially, we looked at, so the question was why we chose the circle to map time instead of doing it in a linear fashion. And we thought that there was a bigger correlation between time in the circle and as it stands as a clock, and that we could use this to calibrate. First off, it would probably not necessarily fill up. We imagined that it would record for up to an hour or so, and then it could expand itself to fill up the circle after the symptoms phase was done, but it could calibrate itself if it, say, got to like 2/3. We definitely looked at doing it in a linear fashion at first, and then potentially like compressing it to the circle to map around time if we wanted to, but we thought actually seeing it grow over time would be more powerful. Oh, you I think I had your hand raised first.
For physicians who increasingly have to worry about malpractice and
Sure.
Recording the HIPAA movement of personal information being recorded, what was their response to this? I mean, were they embracing it? Were the administration, did people want these into hospitals?
So the question is how does this relate to patient privacy issues and liability issues, malpractice issues in medicine and healthcare? And it's a big issue. It's one that we can't totally tackle. But we looked at some research that's been done in sort of high stakes medicine, where people are being diagnosed with cancer, or where new mothers of infants, their children are being put in intensive care. And some research has been done into what doctors think about recording these conversations, because you're talking to somebody telling them they have cancer, they hear the word cancer, and they forget the rest of everything you have to say. So it's actually something, using a regular audio recording device is something that some doctors have taken a step forward with and are actually doing. So it's an issue, but some people are trying to say, no, we can address this by making it upfront, by getting patient agreement and doctor agreement at the beginning, by not doing this in an incognito sort of way. And it's valuable because it really is useful for people to go back and refer to these things later.
What did you envision for
We thought that it could be a web-based thing, so the conversation could be uploaded and some sort of freeware could be downloaded on the patient and on their personal computer. So it would be almost the exact same interface, but they would be able to highlight certain, they would be able to expand the markers and highlight certain areas of the conversation or export it to an MP3. But it would basically be nearly the same interface. There would also be the option to review previous conversations, and we envisioned a spiral-like visualization for that.
So the question one more time was, how would somebody review this? And within the constraints of the time frame, we decided to focus on the recording and the building, because if that makes sense to people, then it's much easier to decompose it and access it afterwards. I think that the key piece of our point of view here is that we want to filter people back, feed people back to the audio recording, and not reveal transcripts or auto-generated anything. So in some ways, the review would be more standard, jumping from track to track and moving your playhead around. We're just trying to provide pathways, avenues to get into the conversation, to make this audio recording accessible and not monotonous to dive into. Hard, hard to do. As anyone who's transcribed the conversation knows, I'm sure you've transcribed a few. Anybody else?
Yeah, actually, one more, if I may. In terms of storage, and so who would own the conversation in your vision? Would it be the doctor? Would it be something that they could take on to their occupational therapist, or what do you envision for that?
We've talked about the possibility of sharing the conversation between different or multiple doctors, and we thought that that could be really beneficial in a diagnostic and treatment process. But we honestly didn't really go into legality issues that much as far as who would own the conversation. It's a question that would have to be explored.
For the design itself and the design language, did you choose to focus that as from the physician's point of view and that they would own it, or from the patient's point of view? And
The device is something that would, sorry, the question is who would own the device or the?
Who's the customer? Who's the user?
Okay. Who's the user of this product?
I'm sorry if I came in late and you already said that.
No, so we envisioned this as something that lives in the doctor's office because we thought that was a good way to sort of bridge the legal divide between, we don't want this to be something the patient brings in and records the conversation with. Instead, this is the doctor inviting the patient to access this recorded conversation after the fact. So I guess the buyer would be the doctor. The user would be both, though.
So if you were to, whoever you were supposed to please with the device, you please the physician or you please the patient?
If the question is who is it for, who benefits from this, I think the answer is both, and hopefully everyone. On the doctor's side, there were a couple comments we referenced about how this could increase efficiency, how this could save them time and help improve coordination amongst multiple people in the doctor's office. And on the patient side, people said that they thought this would be a really interesting way to pull together information and take notes during a conversation without distracting themselves by taking the notes. So we think there's value on both sides.
As far as a business sort of thing goes, I could see this being something that if patients are choosing a new doctor, that could be a factor because the patient can't say, I want you to buy this device, but they could be aware of the fact that this device exists in that doctor's office. So.
Great. Well, let's thank our speakers.
Team medical records. Sorry. So next team is Team Medical Personal Medical Records, and it's actually an interesting project where they looked at record keeping for individuals. So Microsoft recently acquired a company called Azixi that has been optimizing medical record keeping for hospitals. And turns out that this team here explored what it would look like if an individual would start keeping track of their personal records.
Is this on? Okay. Hi, this is Team Personal Medical Records, Steve Hewitt, Michael Innes, Alan Lau, and we decided to create a medical record visualization tool. We're going to walk you through the state of your medical records, quick user research, some of our solution, a scenario, and the future. So what we've created is a platform for collecting, storing, and displaying a person's, consumer's medical records over time.
Okay, so the current state of medical records in relation to the consumer is that it's a mess out there. It's a forest, as an analogy. Right now, medical records are everywhere but where the consumer really can use them. Usually they're locked up in a doctor's office, either in paper form inside of a manila folder, or sometimes they're in digital form, but nonetheless they're usually with the doctor. The good news is that medical records are becoming more fluid by the day. In about 2 to 3 years, about 60% of medical records will be in digital form. So we feel safe with the assumption that we'll be working with digital medical records. The bad news is that even when they are in digital form, they're still pretty much just raw numbers. Sometimes it's a 1,000-page PDF of all these scanned documents, but usually consumers, even if they do get a hold of these medical records for themselves, they can't make sense. They can't get a big picture of it all. It's just too much raw data. So we did some user research. We did some interviews with with consumers that do have medical records, paper medical records within their house. And they expressed big interest in this type of project, having more control, having a larger picture at their fingertips about their medical record. So here's the solution we come up with. Steve?
Okay. So the solution would be create like a familiar navigation, which would be like a map, like a tree ring or a cross-section of a tree, if you will, that would grow outwards over time. Origin being your birth. Go on. And then you'd use it to spot trends in your health history and maybe learn about a personal medical situation. The principal concept was that it would organize your medical history into a searchable platform so that you could see the big picture of your health. So you could firstly bring in any vector of your health that you wanted to. Our scenario would be that a guy we cited, his name's Keith Orr, he's in the New York Times recently, had a heart attack, unfortunately, at 35, and a second one close to 45. He thought he was doing the right thing. He was exercising, reducing his weight. Unfortunately, he stopped taking his medication, which he wasn't really alerted that that was a problem. We feel that if he had a medical record visualization tool, that he would actually be able to prevent this. So imagine that his doctor provided him with the tool. He'd assign ranges for his heart risk, like cholesterol, blood pressure, some commonalities. And then even if Keith had like electronic tracking at home, maybe just by a cuff, cholesterol checking electronic tool, he would be able to launch into this program and add the data.
Okay, so what we have here is the beginning, the setup process. Keith Orr logs in. He creates an account with his healthcare provider, and he logs in so then he can download his records from his hospital in the same way that Quicken might download records from a bank. So here he's importing some medical records that already exist in his doctor's office, and now he's on his home computer, so he can take a look. He wants to take a look at how his jogging has been helping his health. So let's launch in the main menu here. And a few things that you may notice is that the data is laid out so that at the center of this tree ring analogy we have here, the center is the oldest data, where at the edges it's the newest data. Also, we've got what we call status lights around the edges So medications, it looks like it's red. We might have a few conflicting medications there. Additionally, vitals is also red, so we might have some vital signs that are in unhealthy ranges. So, and lastly, we've got the bright and dim green lights in the center, near the center, which indicate how frequently these have been updated. For example, we may not have had a doctor's appointment in quite some time, but it looks like we do have very frequently updated medication, vitals, and habits. All that data is very new. So let's go into vitals to find out how our jogging's been affecting everything else. So we're going to compare a few graphs here. We're going to find out where our cholesterol, blood pressure, as well as our weight, where those are at. Then we're going to go down a section, down to habits, where jogging and all that exercise will be. So then we just click on jogging, and we want to generate a report so we can compare them all. And we just shift down. So here's the actual graph view, where left is the center of the tree ring. Okay, so it looks like we've been jogging pretty well. It's actually been helping the weight quite a bit. However, the cholesterol and the blood pressure, for some reason, are still going up. We want to find out why has that still been going up, even with all this jogging that he thought would help. So what we did since comparing graphs, and especially knowing which graphs is more of a power user task, more of something that a doctor might do, we introduced a feature called presets. So these presets are just clusters of graphs that all center around a common theme. They might all affect each other. For example, an exercise preset might contain weight, exercise duration, and heart rate. So let's go into our doctor's preset that he recommended for us. And let's see, it'll show cholesterol, blood pressure, and he wants us to look at medications. Keith actually stopped taking medications about 3 months ago, so that has had a serious effect on his cholesterol and blood pressure. From here on out, he recognizes that medications can't be substituted by just exercise alone. So he's going to start back on his medications, and he's going to talk to his doctor about really how those medications play a role in his health.
So in our scenario, Keith goes back to his doctor and talks to him about developing a more comprehensive plan. He wants to use this tool to help him, stand behind his own personal medical discoveries to improve his own exercise, nutrition, medical education options. And his doctor's empowered to help him. Happy ending, Keith prevents a second heart attack. He's found a user group to work with, and he feels empowered to make changes to his health.
Okay, so we feel that there's a large area that this can be used in, getting the medical records into the consumer's hands. There's already lots of companies that are doing something near this. For example, Revolution Health is doing something near this. But what we found is that those companies are doing missing one of two things. Either they're missing the automatic downloading from the doctor's office. Revolution Health, for example, requires that the user enter everything, their blood type, everything, manually. So that's missing a lot. Additionally, there's other companies that are downloading all this information from the doctor's office and getting it into the consumer's hands, but it's still just raw data. It's still just these raw numbers listed out of cholesterol, what have you. Users can't glance at it. They can't get the big picture really quickly. So here's some product expansion areas that this can also go into. For example, we can incorporate a family tree. We can find out the genetic information that is in conditions that are common throughout the family. We could also add in, this can be a platform for more than just medical information. It can contain personal mementos, perhaps, and become a living will of sorts. And it also can support better and more automatic logging and updating. It already does support things such as the Apple Nike exercise sensor. So it can be a general platform for any type of medical information that would relate to your health. For example, it could contain voice recordings from your doctor, perhaps, anything that would help in knowing where your health is at. So yeah, there's been a lot of companies already going to this area. While on one hand, it could be viewed as competition. On the other hand, it can also be viewed as validation for this area, that people really do want to see their medical records, where they're at, where their health is at. They don't want to see it every 6 months when they go to the doctor. They want it at their fingertips. So we feel that there is a great need for this product. Any questions? Go ahead.
I love the idea of being able to, I mean, one, easy download, awesome, that's a great point. And then being able to compare vectors over time, variables over time, that's very cool. The thing that I get tripped up on is the whole kind of causation. So me, not a doctor, not taking my medicine, sure, I see my cholesterol going up. How do I know that it's because I'm not taking my medicine? You know what I mean? That was a bit of a leap for me in that scenario. And there's some interesting thinking to be done there. Like how do we help people tie it together?
Yeah.
So the question was, how do people know where to even look at? What might be causing this this sudden spike in one area or another? What graph should I be looking at to find out where something might be going wrong? Part of that, at least, is the preset part. Is that was a kind of a group of graphs that were set by the doctor. The doctor said, "Hey, you've got to watch your medications, your cholesterol, all that. Just kind of assign a healthy range. Either get it from the National Board of Health." That's also part of the status lights. The status lights tell you these big areas that they act as warning signs, saying, "Hey, there's something wrong with your medications. It's red. It might be conflicting medications. You go into further, it'll tell you more about that." But it's a quick glance at it, and you can see where the areas need to be paid attention to. So that's two areas that hopefully will contribute to more of an awareness, more of a direction of where the user should be looking.
We would agree that's a leap, too, to think that you're analyzing this on your own and you're going to all of a sudden know exactly, what to bring in and how to study it. But we thought of it as kind of like a private practice or a doctor, presented tool, potentially. Then you at least get initialized based upon your current condition. Maybe you are a heart patient, so you are really cognizant of the fact that you need to do stuff about this. And so the hope is that, okay, now you start playing with it, but then like every other program, you're like, okay, maybe I should go where the doctor told me to. And so when you hit the preset, then you find out that, it's asked me for medication input, and I blew off my medications. I'm Mr. Do-It-Yourself. No. So we did think about that, and that poses a challenge.
Go ahead.
Did you get any feedback on your prototype from any physicians or their patients?
Our feedback was mostly from people in the computer industry looking at the UI. So we haven't actually brought the UI to a physician yet, no.
We had researched a bit about what Azixi is doing, so we know that there is lots of data out there that is machine readable. So at least from a technical standpoint, we believe that this is feasible to import from the doctor's office. Whether doctors are favorable of consumers having this much control, or not this much control, but more of a do-it-yourself type of aspect, we did not research into that area. So.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, it's a similar question around. I don't know what the protocol was or what you had an opportunity to do in your class and time and schedule, but it is interesting to go back. You did a great job, it sounds like, of talking to folks up front about what their issues were and what they like to have. And then if you had an opportunity to go back, what your solution was, or your different solution, to get feedback. It sounds like that's a great opportunity to see if you're on the right track.
Right, I think, the answer questions about feedback and comment about feedback, and it's true that we do need to present this to a physician now. But one like what we were saying about our validation is that, there's.
Sorry to interrupt, but your audience was the Yankees as well. I didn't bring more persons.
Right.
So we also talk to them about their needs, like you mentioned, about their needs to keep the records. And it sounds like you also want to talk to them as well as the patient.
Yes, we did actually do a usability study. We went with a user that already had paper records in their home. So we know that is a potential user. They do want to keep track of their health. His wife has already dealt with cancer, so they do want to find out where all of their health is at. So that was also a bit of the usability with the UI, but they did express a need for keeping better track and consolidation of all these paper medical records. So that was during an early prototype phase that we did this with.
And additionally, we found some really key power users out there who did have like a 1,000-page PDF of their records over the last 20 years, and they individually searched terms with keywords so that they could see trends, and then they brought in like images, and one of our users actually brought a 20-year-old image to his recent heart evaluation, and he said it was very pertinent for the doctor to see it over time. And we also, who else we talked to? Well, there was other individuals that we spoke of that were like another guy that actually researched a company across the country, or Duke University across the country to get a surgery on his shoulder, and without his own individual research, he wouldn't have had that opportunity. We are hoping that these kind of power users would lead the way towards collecting your own data. And then the question is, would the UI like this be the most visual, important format for them to store it?
Well, thank you, and our speakers.
The next team is up is Team Don't Panic, and they looked at stress in high school situations.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We are Team Don't Panic. This is Christine Komatsu. She's a junior in design studies. My name is Chris. I'm a senior in technical communication at the University of Washington. Our project here today is focusing on stress. So our audience are teenagers aged 13 to 19. We chose teenagers because teenagers are going through a tumultuous development cycle in this stage of their life. So they've got a lot of pressure on themselves. They've got school exams they need to study for. They've got SATs they need to take, college applications to fill out, choosing college or deciding to go on to work after school. They may also have a lot of responsibilities, extracurricular activities. And this is a stage in their life where they're taking on all these new responsibilities. They're going through a lot of awkward changes and forming new relationships with boys and with girls, and it's a pretty stressful time in a person's life. They may or may not have the skills that are necessary to prepare them for adulthood. So our problem statement here is to help teenagers manage stress in a way that prepares them to succeed in adulthood.
So as Chris said, stress comes from a lot of different places. And our approach to our design solution to the teenage demographic is to incorporate time management and social networking in the form of a fashion accessory wristband. And the reason why we do this is to make this interaction as unobtrusive and integrated as seamlessly into a teenager's life as possible. Also, we know that there are a lot of different devices like cell phones and what have you that incorporate calendars, as we've kind of chosen to do, and different things like that. But they do it in a way that these functions are secondary functions, so they're treated as secondary functions. What we wanted to do was highlight the importance of stress management, and so we made a device specifically for this. And let's We also believe that this device should really be an enjoyable experience, again, something that's integrated seamlessly in their lives. And we also have a sliding cover, touch screen, and Chris will talk about that more.
Right, okay. So there's two main components to our project. We wanted to give teenagers the ability to succeed by managing their time properly and managing that time resource. So there's a calendar. So you can use Outlook or iCal or whatever you choose to manage your time properly, to make sure that you keep on top of your schedule and your events, but also to see how you're spending your time, if you are spending too much or too little time on your schoolwork, or if you're spending enough time with your friends and your family. The other component is a social networking component. So teenagers don't have to feel alone with all of these stresses and all these burdens that they may have from school. They can reach out to their peers and form deep, meaningful relationships with one another and feel comfortable as a community. So the social networking is also to make sure that it's more than just sending messages or posting pictures on the internet. It's about bringing that real-life interaction into the physical realm. And we have a prototype I'm going to show. Just a second. Okay. All right. So we have our rough prototype here. And the default view is the monthly calendar, so no surprises here. The top row is the navigation among the different components of the wristband. And the second row is the navigation from viewing your friends in your network. So you have 5 people in your network, which is a large enough group that you can get to know people, but small enough that you can feel like you can have an impact on another person's life. And you can be accountable and responsible for your small network of friends. So you can navigate the calendar like a regular calendar. You can click on a day to find more about the day's events, and it's a touchscreen interface, so you touch the wristband and be able to navigate that way. So for the network, you'd be able to look at your friends' profiles and see what their current status is. You could update that on your computer on Facebook. And you can also see what your friends' schedules are up at a glance to see what's going on and communicate with them, sort of form friendships and develop this sort of deep and meaningful relationships in a real space. So we have one plausible scenario here. Oh, and I forgot to show you guys this. This is some more renderings of our wristband. Boom, that's the cover open. So say we have Jim, and he is playing some songs at an open mic night on a Friday night. He wants to invite his friends to come out and support him. So he gets onto his computer, logs onto Facebook, and makes an event, sends out an invite. So his friends receive the information on their wristband, and they all are notified about this new event with a new message. One of his friends in his network, Kyle, sees the event, and he sees that there's new information, so he decides to check his calendar, and he notices that he's available. So he feels welcomed by his friends, and he decides to go onto the computer later that day and RSVP. He also sees on his calendar that his friend Chloe has a track meet coming up, so when he logs on the computer, he decides to send her a message, and she receives it on her wristband. It's something along the lines of, good luck at your track meet, you're going to do great, kick butt. And Chloe feels like there's people out there that care about her and that she's not so isolated from her friends. And
so with our product, we really wanted to facilitate a sense of community that allows teens to really develop accountability and responsibility among each other. And the heart of our project is really the human interaction aspect of the device, not so much human interaction with each other, not so much the device. The device enables them to interact with each other and to be able to reach out. In one of my interviews, a girl told me that the most important thing is knowing that someone is always there. And people can't always be with you 24/7, so this wristband enables messages to come to you, and you can ignore them or look at them when you want to. As teens share their schedules and their calendars and what they're doing in their lives, they're able to make their situation, making the invisible visible, and making connections in this way. Also, we thought this was really important to tackle these issues at this age, at the teenage demographic, to prepare them for adulthood. Because in our lives, we struggle with stress forever, until we die, right? So it's helpful we felt that there was a real need for this, and this was our project.
Right, so the question was, why did we choose a wristband instead of a cell phone?
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this, it kind of blanked out, but there's a lot of different devices, like, cell phones are MP3 players that incorporate calendars and things like that, but like I said, they're secondary applications, so, raise your hand if you have an iPod. How many of you use your calendar? No one? Yeah. So by using this, by creating its own form, I guess, with our core device, we're highlighting the importance of it, and we're making it known. Teens can use it, and it's not hidden and nestled into a device. It's making it visible to teens.
So yeah, I think I understand that there's kind of a push in the technology industry to converge all on one device that does everything. And I guess it would be feasible to see something like this pop up on a device like that in the future when there's more advanced technology and people are using one device for all of their MP3s and phones and communication, such a thing.
It's not clear to me how those five people were chosen. The social, is the parent of a high school student. Social is another stressor. So how do you keep that from being something that is just as much that all of the whether it's mean girls or dissing people behind their backs or things that add up to social stresses seem equally possible in this way?
So I guess the question was two parts, right? How are these people chosen in the network? And how do we ensure that it isn't a stressful situation by choosing people, right? So we wanted to say, too, that we would use a social networking site like Facebook, perhaps. They've opened up their API to make interesting applications. So go ahead.
Just going to jump in. Facebook, they have high school networks now. So when you apply or when you connect to this device, your peers are going to be the peers in your network. And also, I should say that there are limitations. You can't guarantee that you're not going to get weird people or people that may be abusive, and that happens. But in the bigger picture, we're trying to facilitate a really healthy network, and a network that enables teenagers to help relieve their stress before it becomes unmanageable. And I don't know if that really answers your question, but again, there are limitations.
Right. So on Facebook, you can join a network of people in your school or people that have the same interests as you. So we figured that people could use Facebook to find other people that they're interested in, or maybe some friends that they have at school. And I think making friends is a pretty stressful situation too. It's talking to people that you don't really know, but it's sort of opening up yourself, and you can control privacy with things on Facebook, and you can choose to share what information you want, so that way you don't have to feel like there's so much information being revealed about yourself. And I think too that a lot of this desire has to come from within a person to want to go out there and meet people, or do things together, or keep track of their time, and we're trying to facilitate that interaction and make it a little bit easier.
It's a wonderful problem. Don't get me wrong. It's a great problem. It's very interesting. Very quickly, what were your thoughts about possible outbound communication around this thing? So I don't think you highlighted any outbound communication, but did you know any thoughts?
Right. So the question was possible outbound communication. We just mentioned that right now we're thinking of a viewer, so maybe it would vibrate on the wrist if there was a new message or new information. But
it's not an input device. It would strictly just be something that you would receive. If you wanted to input messages or what have you, you would go to your computer. Computers are ubiquitous, so it'd be easily accessible.
It's conceivable that it could have a touchscreen keyboard, and then when you hover over it with your finger, the keys blow up so you can see more. But.
Great. Let's thank our speakers.
Next group up is the volunteers. It's a clever word. And it's a team of 6, and they did the work of 6. Oh, hang on, I've got it.
Not the apple. I don't want to say the word PC. It's American, so how do I make this PC?
All right, I talk on it. There you go.
Thanks for the tech support. All right, yeah, we are the corporate behemoth of the group here, with 6 full students in our cohort here. So my name is Chris Martin. This is Craig Panthan, and also on the roster, Jacqueline Knapp, Zach Crane, Brian Smith, and Matt Cartham. So what we've developed is the volunteering network. And we took a little bit of a non-traditional view of health and wellness, in that we wanted to approach health and wellness from the standpoint of communities. Our point of view sort of being that you really can't be healthy as an individual unless you're part of a healthy community. And so what does that mean for a community to be healthy? How can you improve that community health in some way? So we started focusing around something that's already there, that we sort of viewed as being healthy, positive activity in communities, which is volunteering. And so we set out some sort of broad goals that I think that we've been pretty true to from the very beginning. One, increase the community health and connectedness through volunteering, and hopefully design a fairly novel system to connect people to volunteer events in kind of a new way that allows them to integrate it into the course of their everyday life. Volunteering is out there. A lot of people are doing it. We'll talk a little bit about what we found out about why not people volunteer in the first place. But I wanted to give you just a glimpse of our solution, sort of in a nutshell. So we've landed on, we started kind of with this romantic idea of spontaneous volunteering, and that these kind of smart mobs of people being able to all serendipitously show up and do something good in the community, like maybe clean a park or rescue a kitten or something. We ended with something maybe a little bit more complicated, but hopefully maybe more realistic as well. And that is a mobile sort of proximity-based way for people to share information about volunteer events in their community. There's sort of 2 components that we'll develop here. One is the community sort of being given a voice to be able to ask its members for help by offering volunteer opportunities. And then on the other side, participants, these potential volunteers, being able to carry the announcements of these volunteer opportunities, sort of like digital pollen, brushing them off on other people in their communities who also share like interests. So a little bit about some of our initial research. We obviously wanted to find out a lot about why people are volunteering. interestingly, we found out there's a high degree of intention for volunteering. A lot of people have the positive, and maybe a lot of people in here think about volunteering from time to time. But when we sat down and talked to people about their volunteer experiences and maybe why they're not doing it anymore, we found a lot of people who had something in their past, but it was like the Boys and Girls Club that they did in college, and now they're professionals and they don't have time. And what if on a Saturday I had to take my car into the shop? I don't want to commit 3 weeks ahead of time to do the big brother and sister thing. Some people just kind of didn't know where to start. There's a lot of stuff out there. If you go to Volunteer Match and you type in, I'm interested in education in this area code, and there's like 300 different things, and it looks a bit like, monster.com for volunteer. So it's not a very kind of a friendly atmosphere for identifying these things in the first place. Well, why do people volunteer? What's sort of the positive side of this? We found something really interesting from some data and some studies that volunteering is really driven by asking. 50% of people who are asked to volunteer actually do volunteer. And then of the volunteers, of people that are sort of labeled as active volunteers, about 70% of those got started in volunteering in the first place because somebody asked them. So the potential is there. The energy, there's a lot of potential energy, just not necessarily all the kinetic energy that we need. There's also something kind of surprising in that, volunteering is a very social activity. There are people that said, I volunteer when I have the chance to go do it with friends. It's much more likely that I'm going to go to an event if I know someone's going to be there. It sounds like a party kind of, but in some ways I guess it is. And then sort of a side observation that we noted as we were looking at trying to understand community health and all of the negative messages that we get about the health of our communities is that there really isn't a great outlet for what you can actually do about them right there at the point when you're understanding and being given sort of the bad news from the newspaper about what's going on in your community. So let's explore our project a little bit through the use of a scenario. Common theme in these presentations. So this is Erin. Erin, she lives in Green Lake, as you know, is a nice little neighborhood here in Seattle. She's a lab technician at PSC. They do all kinds of interesting recycling of dangerous products. She has a lot of fun with her friends, likes to go to the bowling alley. Pretty good average, actually. But she's diversified in her recreational interests. She's on a kickball league as well. And so one day, we're going to take a sort of a day in the life. She's on her way to the grocery store, walking there on the sidewalk, checking out the latest headlines. And she notices that there's this dynamic display that's positioned there next to the newspaper boxes. And she's curious to find out what this thing actually looks like. So what we're going to see here is sort of what she's seeing. This is an announcement of the Volunteering Network and a map of her community. And as time is going by, we're getting a view of the upcoming week and the volunteering opportunities that are occurring throughout her neighborhood. We've also sort of incorporated this framework for community health that we, borrowed from the Seattle Foundation, which sort of breaks down different needs in the community along basic needs, medical care, education, arts and culture, the environment, and civic engagement. And so we found that those were also nice little buckets for a lot of the volunteer opportunities to fit into. So she's interested in this. In fact, there was a prompt at the bottom of the screen that said, if you want to find out more, connect with your Bluetooth to this particular ID code. And so she goes ahead and does that, and we're going to take a look at the introductory video that plays on her phone to give her a little more information about this system. So every day there are opportunities to make a difference in your community. This dynamic sign offers your community a voice to express its needs. Tune in to specific events based on what you care about and when you're available. Like Digital Pollen, you share the information with others by simply moving amongst your community. Through intersections and interactions, the information spreads. And spreads. Culminating in a populated event and a better community. So she's then given the opportunity to download the software that enables her to be a part of this community. And so she continues on to the grocery store. She does her shopping, perhaps taking into account some of the environmental impacts that the products might have. And while she's in line, she decides she's going to set up the software. She basically sets a few preferences about things that she's interested in, which of those categories are most appealing to her. And immediately, as she puts her phone down, another person walks by, and a volunteer event sort of jumps onto her phone as a piece of digital pollen. So she notices that, and she takes her phone to take a look at what this interface is actually going to look like. And she's presented with pretty much a simplified calendar. Again, you're getting a fairly nice, luxurious view, but we were designing for a fairly small screen here. And so she's able to scroll back and forth, each of these boxes representing a week. And she's particularly interested in the environment based on her job, and she takes a look at what opportunities are available locally here in the environmental category. And so she sees one, Friends of Green Lake Stream Restoration, that looks particularly interesting. She's able to peruse it, get some more details, find out some contact information, and then it is either to sign up, bookmark it to save it for later, invite a friend, or delete it from her little roster. So we'll catch up with Erin now a day later. She's in a coffee shop and reading one of her favorite books, and someone in the coffee shop happens to pick up one of those events because they share a common interest in the environment. And just then someone parks their car outside and has a few other volunteer events that jump onto her phone as this digital pollen starts to propagate throughout the community. And this time her phone starts vibrating, and so she's really interested to find out, as she's exploring this new interface, what might this mean? And so we're going to get to take a look at what the interface would show now. All right, so here we have, I think, there's a new event here that's in the education category, and so she's able to go explore what that new event is, and she sees that there's sort of this pulsing light here, and the reason why is that one of her friends that's been defined in her network actually used to have this very piece of digital pollen on her phone and pollinated the network with it back on May 22nd. And so this is kind of interesting. Now that she knows that her friend has actually seen this event, and she might call her up a little bit later to see if she wants to go with and check out the event. She also saw there was another new event up in the basic needs category. So she decides to check that out while she's here and sees that this meal preparation event has occurred, and she knows that one of her friends is a great cook and would probably be interested in checking this event out. So she goes ahead and invites her friend. And so we'll see her friend here, a dashing fellow in the laundromat, picks up the event and says, yeah, this is great. I want to sign up for this particular event. And while he's folding his laundry, the saga continues. That volunteer opportunity is able to move on. So at the end of the day, she's walking back to her house, and as she passes the sign, a fresh load of volunteer opportunities jumps from sort of this main source into her phone, and she continues as an active member in the network. So what are some of the implications of this kind of this network and this design? And so we thought about this. One thing is that every participant now sort of becomes this silent advocate for the things that they care about. It kind of changes your relationship to volunteering in some ways, not to promote laziness and not to show up to events, but you do have this sense that even if I'm not always showing up and going and participating and picking up the shovel and the rake, I am having a role in encouraging positive activity within my community. There is something also about this having kind of a very safe bridge between the anonymity that exists in communities and between strangers. It's a way of sort of revealing something about yourself and finding something out about the people around you without necessarily having to get all their personal information and be able to trace their name and their address and such things. And there's also, I think, this concept that we really related to, which was that the data kind of lives within the communities at this point. And these pieces of digital pollen start to accumulate a history and traces throughout the communities and among the people that they carry through. And something I kind of alluded to is that this now becomes sort of this detection device. As you see things populate into these different categories, you can understand the crowd around you might be particularly interested in environmental concerns or might be particularly interested in basic needs. And that's kind of an interesting indicator of place. So finally, I just want to leave you with a few reflections. One is we acknowledge right away there's certainly more efficient ways to distribute digital information, namely the internet. And that's not necessarily what our goal was here, was to compete with that and trying to make this the be-all, end-all way of finding out about volunteer opportunities. But I think that there's something interesting that happens when information sharing is based upon people's proximity to each other. And it raises some questions about, what might this mean to their sense of connection to other people, to places, to events? how might this actually change some things or enhance some things about this area of context-aware computing that's sort of coming online right now. So we found this exploration really valuable. I think that overall we've introduced a model that possibly could have applications to other areas and other types of information. But for now, hopefully, this might be one that could actually improve community health and wellness. Thanks. Yes.
I really like your concept. One thing that kind of scares me about those, it seems like it would be really easy for this to just turn into spam. If there's so many of these opportunities coming into your phone all at once, have you thought about how you might control that or customize it?
Absolutely. So, I mean, one of the screenshots we didn't show was sort of this ability to kind of filter things based on your preferences. And so there, of course, you get one level of filtering happens there. We look to see, how many volunteer opportunities are we actually talking about here? And for a given, week, it's probably in the range of a couple of hundred. And the way that these databases are currently controlled is that I think they're pretty much through registered nonprofit organizations are able to input this information into databases. So there's some level of control there. And I think that we all kind of initially had this vision of, like getting onto a crowded bus and all of a sudden your phone starts going crazy with all of this stuff. But I think we kind of, we haven't really been able to test that. But I think the other possibility would be that, in fact, there really aren't that many things represented in your local neighborhood in terms of volunteer opportunities. And this is just sort of a fun way to find out about what other people are doing and connect to your friends as they do them.
So and that's a good thing to remember is that by this initial sign that you get this software from kind of designates your community. So that geographic limitation, like Chris was saying, reduces that number of opportunities. In Seattle, there's hundreds of opportunities available every week. But when you start limiting it down to these compartmentalized areas, it reduces it significantly. And you're choosing different interest areas. So if you're only choosing 3 out of the 6, then you're much better off.
But of course, there's always the danger of cross-pollination. And some guy flies in from Detroit and starts loading all these needs for Detroit. That's something I guess we'd have to sort of build into the preferences a bit. Yeah. Oh.
I can certainly see the use of mobile devices. Tell us your thoughts about setting up the kiosk network. That looks like it's going to be expensive.
Well, I haven't done the cost analysis yet. I am encouraged by the falling prices of touchscreen, and perhaps Microsoft would want to donate some tabletop displays, some dual touch Surface displays to be able to accommodate such a noble cause. I think that's actually more a function of our fantastic industrial designers able to mock up things that look really expensive, but in fact, we could probably get by with some cheaper materials.
So you know the BOM cost then. You don't know what bill of materials.
No. And in the 10 weeks that we had, we were mainly focused on
Do keep in mind, it is 10 weeks.
Yeah.
I just want to make a comment. I love linking it to the notion of place, of community, of grounded place, but then also having that mobile aspect. And given the green push, given worldwide record, Portland, Seattle, Amsterdam, like I could see city governments maybe being willing to put some kind of bill for some sort of something like that. So it's cool.
Thanks.
One last question? Well, let's thank
All
our
right, thank you.
Well, last and certainly not least, though, we've got the team after the break. They always get to present at the oddest time. This is actually a very special team. It consists of 2 engineers that were brave enough to wander over to the art design world of UW. And they looked at nutrition and eating together, the aspects of food and health, and I think they came up with a really great design. So enjoy the last presentation. Hey, you got to use these. Yeah. And this is somewhat hard because it's like broken.
Yeah, as he introduced, feel free to stretch during our presentation. It won't bother us. We're a little used to it. My name is Jacob.
I'm Dave.
This is Dave. And I'll tell you a little bit about what we came up with. Maybe. Okay. As we were introduced, 2 engineers. So we wanted to tackle the problem that we saw was a big one, no pun intended, of American eating and obesity. And we kind of looked at it through the lens of our typical background, and we wanted to provide a solution that was low in cost, highly accessible to all the people that wanted to use it, and promoted a social aspect. And we also defined these, saw these as being the problems that were currently driving bad eating trends right now. And so our core premise was that two things really. Even if you're eating bad, if you're eating in smaller portions, you're going to be okay. Not necessarily okay, but better off. And if you're cooking your own meals, you're less likely to prepare it in an unhealthy fashion. So those were the two things we really wanted to drive at. So we went through a lot of ideation, trying to find out how we could address all these problems, came up with a lot of great ideas, but at the end of the day,
The shocker fork, yeah.
That was our favorite one, but they didn't like it.
if you have any questions after the presentation on some of the more fun ideas that we came up with, we'd be more than happy to elaborate on those. But our solution ended up being a virtual type diner. And the idea behind this was, like I said, imagine being a person out on your first date, if you can remember that. And that's kind of our prototypical user, is a young professional, people that are tech savvy, people like that. If you're involved in conversation with someone, you're not necessarily going to gorge out on the 24-ounce T-bone steak and the 12-inch high death by chocolate cake. So we came up with this way to bring people together, and you can see all of our ideas on it here, but we'll kind of just dive into it to give you a better idea of what we're talking about. So.
Right. Our user, the Simple Life of Sausage Man, that's our username. He's a young male professional. Basically, we're thinking of a yuppie, someone who goes to work most of the day and then comes back home. He's just mentally exhausted, and he needs to get his food in, right? So it's for 3:45 p.m. Sausage Man's mentally exhausted. He's still in the office, so he wants a 10-minute break or something. So he goes to Diner, our software. All right. This is our front page.
Yeah, sure. So lots of stuff going on here, but to highlight a few of the main points, you'd come into this would be exciting, this would be a place you'd go back to again and again. It would have, like, June is Asparagus Month, for instance, so ways to get involved with events like that. We would encourage interaction through a points-based system, and you could, this is your prototypical website design, but we also envisioned having a virtual kitchen that you could build from the ground up as an alternate way to navigate the site. But as you use the site more, you would gain points, and you'd be able to buy, that Viking range for your virtual kitchen, or the Frigidaire fridge, or whatever. Great commercial tie-ins. You could, whatever you wanted to do in that realm. So let's say we log in, and this here we're greeted with a recipe page. And our idea was, you get home at the end of the day, I want to make something, I have this in my cupboard, I find it, I get a nutritional breakdown of what it's going to be like to cook this food, but the really part we wanted to drive home with this project was, okay, I found this, and now, as you see up in the top right here, the social connection comes in. This is what sets it apart from all the other things that are out there. Facebook, MySpace, those things are great, but they're static. Recipe websites are great, but they just give you a text printout of the recipe. So this brings everything together. So let's say I've found a meal that I want to cook, and I get this pop-up that says, there's a public pasta cook-off going on right now that you could join in. That might be fun. Or Caliente wants to cook with you. And this, I'll let Dave...
Right, Caliente. Who would say no? Anyway, so this is a base. You want to use the calendar, very simple. Everybody's used to the calendar. That's where it's set up your events in the future and all that. We have, did you? Yeah. Oh, yes. And then after the date has been set up, you eventually, on the date, you go to the date page. So there's lots of things, but the thing we want to emphasize here is that, we're using a video conference software here so that people can actually cook together, watch each other's meal, or actually learn how to cook. So right now there's 2 people in this room, which is Sausage Man and Caliente on their date, but there's also the original recipe video. So what's his name again? Emil, right?
Emil. Yeah, Emil loaded a video on our site because he's a big backer.
Right. So, if you have a problem like cooking the meal, you could always click on that and you'll be able to see it. One thing we realized, because we have the potential of having many users, is that we also want to incorporate the grid view, which is like, if you look up the top left corner of the current camera bit, which is that 6 rectangles. That will let us see all the users at one time and see all the videos going at one time, but then you can select which ones you want to see.
So this would be like if you joined a larger dining hall, like the public pasta cook-off or whatever, you would see a bunch of people up there, and you could scroll between the different views of people that were cooking at that same particular time.
All right. One thing we realized is that we don't need all that information most of the time. So there's the expanded view. This is the 2 main portions, 2 modules, which is the current camera, which is this much larger screen for you could interact with the person, and the recipe directions. The things we want to emphasize here is the recipe directions. The buttons are so much larger now because when you're in the kitchen, there's like sauce flying all over the place. You don't really want to be able to pinpoint little small bits on the screen, so we have to make the buttons much bigger. During the recipe, we realized that because there are many people that might be involved, right, we have a color feedback on where the other person might be on during the course of the meal. So the red is supposed to represent where Caliente is right now, which is boiling noodles into softened. But you are currently on the big bring Alfredo sauce to sight boil and then add noodles thing, right? So that's easier to see. We also have this options bar, which is like where you go mouse over to see, right? And this is actually how we handle the end of the or during the conversation, during the date. So we have the conversation pieces. Because this is a social networking app, you're going to pick up some information about what they are. So we come up with some conversation pieces for you to talk about to keep the conversation going. There's the post-mortem, as you software guys love to say, which will let you manage the experience at the end of the day. So we have a couple of options there. And then there's our Give Me a Star, which is our nutritional and participant point system, where we incorporate 2 different systems of one, the points is to will allow you buy like the extra Viking range for virtual kitchen, or the nutritional rating, which is the 4 stars, which is just give you a general overview of a user to encourage the person to eat better.
All right, so the happy ending. Our sausage man has killed 10 minutes of his office time. That's a great accomplishment. He's found a local hottie in Caliente who's he's excited about cooking with tonight. When he gets home, he's cooking himself a home-cooked meal. He's not stopping by Burger King and sitting in front of the TV to watch American Idol or something. He's gained valuable diner points, which he can use to make his virtual kitchen better, so he can get more local hotties saying, look at this guy's awesome kitchen. I want to cook with this guy tonight. He's increased his nutritional rating, as the site will keep track of what you've been cooking and how often you've been using it. And he's viewed valuable online advertising for diners' profit. And this could be via the Food Network, as Emeril Lagasse will be our first backer.
Right.
If he chooses to.
We'll give him an option.
Yeah.
All right, so if everybody knows, Facebook recently released their API. So this is great for us because all we need to do is piggyback off them. We don't have to develop the social networking aspect of it. So just imagine this module being on your Facebook profile. We have like just 2 pieces of information. I want to cook, which will let you introduce people to setting up a date with you, and my favorite recipe, all right, which is like more of like, oh, this is me. I love to cook this stuff, right? And we use the same basic features that Facebook has, but we believe this would increase the amount of users, and we don't have to actually bother getting users through this.
All right, so that is our virtual diner, so to speak.
Questions? Comments?
I have a quick question. So I saw in green you had a lot of customer comments or participant comments.
Yeah.
What was one of the participant feedback that really surprised you when you were showing this concept around?
The thing that really surprised me the most was to repeat the question. What surprised us about user feedback when we were showing this to people? The thing that surprised me the most is the range of what people were saying. I showed this actually separately to two, a boyfriend and a girlfriend. So they already had they wouldn't need this for the social networking aspect of it, but they both loved it. The girlfriend was so excited about building her virtual kitchen that she wanted to cook on it right then and there. And that surprised me because that wasn't something I was expecting that people would be that excited about it. The guy saw this as a way for him to interact with his girlfriend a lot better. And that wasn't even the intent. But he saw this as a way for him to be able to cook with her. And so that was another user base that we hadn't even seen at this point in time. And then, of course, now he's motivated to watch the Food Network with her and see these recipes that he can go and put on. The one thing we didn't really talk about too much was the recipe book would be mostly user uploaded recipes. We would start out with a stock recipe set, but we see it as expanding, and people would upload their own recipes, and then you'd get user feedback and that type of thing, another way to gain points or whatever. And so, any other questions, comments?
All right. Well, thank you very much.